Patreon Q&A number 41. I want to thank all 67 of my amazing, attractive patrons. Guys, I can't thank you enough for continuing to support me and stick by me the way that you have. The rough times are over, at least for now, but I'm still waiting to hear back from you-know-who. So until that is finalized, still going to have to wait until I can take things further. If you're getting annoyed by that, I'm sorry. I'm getting a little annoyed myself as to why this is taking so long and all of the back and forth and whatnot, but I will get this settled, I promise. Also, I'm going to be uploading my first Patreon exclusive video. It's going to be a special review for the new chapter of One Punch Man that's coming out soon, chapter 111. So look out for that on Patreon. But other than that, everyone else listening, there's probably going to be spoilers in these questions and answers, so tread carefully after this point. Austin J asks, "Hi Sheldon, happy to see your channel is strike free. I never thought that your channel was any less appealing and have continued to enjoy your content." Hey, thanks Austin. My question this week is about the natural monstrification process, or the process that doesn't involve monster cells. Which S-Class hero do you think is the most likely to go through the process? I've been thinking about Zombie Man and how he has apparently died countless times. Would this universe dictate him going through some sort of monstrification or genetic evolution, or does him being an experiment block any further development? So, I think what you're thinking about is the growth process, not so much the monstrification process. Yes, Orochi did go through this process, as well as Garo and Saitama, but this wasn't the result of them becoming monsters and whatnot. That's just breaking through plateaus and becoming stronger. Typically, when a human transforms into a monster, it's caused by an abnormal cell reaction triggered by an explosion of negative emotions. So that's not always the case, but that is like the typical way that one becomes a monster. So Zombie Man could technically be already classified as a monster, because it's also stated by Dr. Genus that, you know, the other ways of becoming monsters can be triggered by environmental factors and stuff like that, but also research specimens who have been experimented on and become monsters through the power of science, which is just like what happened with, Zombie Man under the experiments of Dr. Genus. Now, Dr. Genus doesn't outright say that Zombie Man is a monster. He, further on in this exposition, he says that there's other heroes and people like that who have had their body augmented and modified to become, super powerful that way. And I more or less think this is because Dr. Genus didn't want to trigger Zombie Man, because we know Zombie Man gets triggered if you call him a monster, because we saw that he got pissed off when a My Mask accused him of being one. But I'm not sure if the experimentation that was done on his body is going to block him becoming a monster. I assume that it could still possibly happen. Not exactly sure about that. I don't think it's been made too clear. But if Zombie Man were to become a monster, he would have to have, a 180 in his personality. He would have to have, such an explosion of negative emotions and just evil thoughts and whatnot that it just causes the abnormal cell reaction in him. But as for the S-Class heroes that could have this happen to them, I'm not going to say in My Mask because you already know my stance on him, or at least I think that you do. I'll make a video on that again. But I think that it's possibly Tank Top Master who could, maybe go through a monstrification process, because as we saw lately with Tank Top Master, he has had unsatisfied needs or the desire to change into someone else. And he does have, he's prone to vices with an inferiority complex. We see that because he's inferior to the other S-Class heroes. It started at the end of Season 1 when Tatsumaki, showed how powerful she was, and he wanted to become more stronger because of that. And then we saw him, just get played with by Metal Knight, and then he eventually lost to Garo. So all of this combined together is, really taking its toll on Tank Top Master, and it could, possibly lead to an abnormal cell reaction triggered by negative emotions. Now, I don't want this to happen to Tank Top Master. I hope he becomes more powerful through conventional ways and stays a human, but it is very possible that he could become that. BigBadBrownBear asks, "Do you think Saitama has a single antibody cell that goes around one-punching any illness thrown his way, or maybe all of his cells are capable of one-punching potential threats?" Hey, this is a really good question, and I do think this is the case, because we saw on the outside of his body, Saitama is pretty much impervious to everything. Everything more or less has been thrown at him, and he has not taken any damage, more or less. So I assume that the same thing is going on the inside of him, meaning that Saitama potentially is unable to become sick, unable to attain disease or anything like that, just because he's become so unfathomably powerful and pushed the human body to the pinnacle of existence, more or less. So nothing can really affect him because he's just too powerful for it. At least I hope that this is the case, because I think that would be pretty cool. Fiqstro L asks, hey Shonen, what would be the result of the battle if King happens to fight the Mosquito in episode 2? So, I assume that the Mosquito would just stay away from King due to his overwhelming aura that he presents and whatnot, similar to how the monsters see him and whatnot. I assume the Mosquito would see him in a similar light, and it would just stay away from him. However, if the Mosquito was buzzing around him with like how we saw with Saitama, I assume that the initial swat from King would just immediately destroy it. Goliath asks, hey Shonen, congratulations on having your strikes removed. Your content is always top-notch quality and very professional, so it'll be a huge boost to the anime community if you were to have been suspended. Here's hoping you remain in the clear. Hey, thanks Goliath. As for my questions, I have two. First question, what do you think would happen if King, Saitama, and Blast were to either fight one another or just have a random confrontation? Given they are all supposedly disaster level god threat heroes, would their innate abilities that we know of conflict with each other? So let me just put it out there real quick that I'm not an authority on this stuff, and some people get pissed at me for saying that characters are disaster level god. It's just what I hypothesize based off of the context clues that we get. That's it, guys. If you don't think they are disaster level god, there's no reason to get pissed at me. We can all have differing opinions, and I'll get more into that later in this video. So I always assumed that there was a 50-50 chance with Blast encountering King. Either he is going to see through King's meta luck aura facade, or he's not. So either Blast is going to be the first person to see through it, and that's going to hype up Blast for just not the readers, but also the characters in the story and their perception of him, or he's just going to see he's just going to see King the way that everybody else sees him. And I assume that he's probably not going to fight King because he assumes that their fight would result in the world being destroyed more or less. So he's just like, there's no point in us fighting because it would just be a threat to everyone else. As for Saitama and Blast, I assume that they are going to fight eventually. I don't think Blast is really going to defeat Saitama or even come close to that, of course. But I do think he'll probably push Saitama the furthest he's ever been pushed. Maybe even more so than Meteor Burst Boros, but he will eventually be defeated by Saitama. You know, maybe a couple punches here and there, but I don't really think he has a chance of defeating him. Second question, do you think it's pointless to pit Saitama up against anyone outside of the series? As in, since he's a parody/gag character, is there a real point in having him fight anyone legitimately, given the purpose of a gag character is to sort the notion that we know is perceived as normal and elevate them to a ludicrous level? And if there's a point in putting him against the other characters, who would it be in your opinion? Thanks for your awesome videos and content, dudes. Stay safe out there. So, Saitama is not a gag character, and One Punch Man is not a gag series, and I'm getting more into that into the next question. But if you think that, more power to you, and I encourage differing thoughts and differing opinions. I don't want everyone to just parrot what content creators say and whatnot. If you personally believe something, go for it, and I'm all for that. But yeah, Saitama is a parody, for sure, and there's a far line between parody and gag. The point of Saitama isn't to have him so powerful that he is a gag character. There is a quantification to Saitama's power. We know how he attained it, and we know that others can attain it too. So the reason why I think it's superfluous to put Saitama against characters from the outside series, you know, in versus battles and whatnot, is because we don't know how powerful Saitama truly is. We've never seen him go all out. We've only seen him use like a serious punch. That's it. That's the most Saitama has ever tried in the series. So when people try to like fully quantify how powerful he is, it just doesn't make sense because we don't know. We have no idea. For all we know, Saitama can destroy the universe, and he's just been holding it back. I'm not saying that's the truth, but I'm saying it's a possibility. So when people try to say like, oh, well, Saitama's this powerful, and there's no way he could defeat Goku because of this and this and that. We just don't know how powerful Saitama is. Goku, on the other hand, we do know how powerful he is because the series has told us many, many times. And every time he gets more powerful, we can take more clues and whatnot as to figure out how powerful he is. But like I said, if you think Saitama is a gag character, I'm not saying that you're wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Johndoe asked, yo, what's up, Sony? Considering all the reverse hype the author is deliberately putting on Wakanda, I highly doubt he'll just walk to the sunset feeling like $1 million. In what form do you think he'll have a taste of his own medicine? I don't think the author is just going to kill a kid for being a scumbag in a joke manga. So this is what I was talking about in the previous question. Before I go any further, let me put it out there. This is my opinion. Keywords, okay? So I don't think One Punch Man is a gag or a joke manga. I don't think Saitama is a gag or a joke character. There are parody elements to the series, no doubt, but there is there's far in between a parody and parody elements being a complete gag or a joke. It's like calling The Avengers a comedy movie. So I do understand why people would think this, especially the casuals who have just seen One Punch Man Season 1. I can totally understand why you would walk away from that thinking that it's just a gag and nothing else. But if you are really looking for an example of like a gag series, look at Dr. Slump, Teenage Renaissance David, Cromartie High School, one of my favorite series. I love that. Check it out in case you haven't seen it. But One Punch Man does not fall into those, just at least in my opinion. And I do think if you were to ask One or Murata, they would agree that it is not a gag series. There are definitely comedic elements to it. And One, I always say, is a genius when it comes to comedy and mixing it with serious elements and combat and all of that stuff. He's so good at it that it throws people off and they don't even really understand what he's really going for. And this isn't me saying that I'm smarter than anyone, because I'm not. I'm a friggin' idiot, guys. I'm just saying this is the way that I see it. So I could be wrong and you guys could be right, but it doesn't really matter. I'm not trying to say that you guys are wrong. I'm just trying to put it out there what my opinion is, and maybe educating some people out there who are confused as to what is exactly going on here. I think it would be really weird if the end result of One Punch Man is just being a gag manga and Saitama is a gag character, considering the depth that has gone into this series. Like, it just doesn't make sense why there would be so much expansion on these characters, so much expansion of the lore, and why the seriousness and tone shifts so much, and why there's so much exposition if the end result is just this is a gag. Like, if you just look at those series I was talking about, it more so makes sense that they are gag mangas and whatnot. But that's all I'm really going to say on this. I'm not looking to debate anyone. If you feel that it is a gag manga, keep thinking that. I encourage deferring opinions. But as for Waganma, his own medicine, what I was talking about in my review, I don't think he's going to get killed. Obviously, we saw how One feels about kids and violence towards them. Obviously, he respects kids, and his characters respect kids too. His own medicine, I think he's just going to get scared or captured or something like that, similar to how he originally was. What I'm really hoping happens is that, like, Tario comes up and beats the crap out of him or something, or punches him at least once. Something like that, but I don't really think he's going to be harmed in, like, a serious way or something. Joshua M asks, "Hi, Big Z, so you think you're a big guy when it comes to One Piece? Well, let's put your skills to the test." Today's question is a what if regarding the Admiral battle at Punk Hazard. Twist here is instead of Sengoku nominating Aokiji for whatever reason, he nominates Kizaru as a candidate for Fleet Admiral. Akainu gets mad and the two Logias fight each other on Punk Hazard. Will the outcome of this fight change? And if so, what exactly would be different going forward? So first of all, I don't think I'm a big guy yet. I'm trying to get to this status of big guy, but I am training diligently every single day. So I don't think anything would really change here. Akainu would still win, and it's really debatable who is stronger between Kizaru and Aokiji. I don't really think there's that big of a difference, obviously, and I don't even really think there's that big of a difference between Aokiji and Akainu. So Akainu did win, of course, but they fought for, 10 days or something like that. So I think that goes to show that they're more or less evenly matched, regardless of what their Logia abilities are. They're just super powerful dudes who there's no real clear-cut difference between. I think it just eventually came down to who wanted it more, and Akainu wanted it more. Akainu wanted to be Fleet Admiral way more than what Aokiji did, because we saw Aokiji has conflicting morals. Like, that's why Sengoku nominated him, because he felt Aokiji lined more into what he thought personally, as where Akainu is like this psychopath who feels that he is justice incarnate. And we see that Kizaru didn't even care about being the Fleet Admiral. I mean, I get the impression that he hardly even cares about being an admiral. So if for some reason they were to fight, I think more or less it would be a super competitive fight, just the way that Akainu and Aokiji was, for sure, but Akainu would definitely win in the end because he just simply wanted it more than Kizaru. I'm not going to sit here and say, well, his hockey's better than his hockey, or his Logia is better than his Logia, because there's no way to really figure that out. We don't have enough info on these characters. Definitely on Kizaru. I think he has shown the least out of all of the admirals besides the new ones. So I'm just going to say that Akainu is going to win because he wants it the most. Legendary says, "Hey Sean, I'm not sure if you saw the new Godzilla movie or not, but I thought I would ask anyway since it seemed interesting. Would Godzilla be considered a monster? And if he was, what threat level would he be?" So I haven't seen the new movie yet. I'm kind of just waiting for it to come out on digital, but it does look pretty awesome. I mean, huge monsters fighting for a majority of it. That seems like it's going to be a good time. But I assume that you're asking, would he be considered a monster? Because he's like an ally to the humans, right? More or less. I do still think he would be considered a monster, but if the Hero Association was able to have like an alliance with him, similar to how the humans do in the movies, Maybe he would have some kind of weird classification, you know, maybe like pseudo monster or something like that. His disaster level, I assume, would just be like dragon, maybe approaching above dragon. I liken him up there with like Pluton and Beefcake because it's huge like them, and their power output seems similar to what Godzilla does. Like, if you see what Pluton could do in the anime, let me also mention Pluton's non-canon, but that doesn't matter. Like, the output of the stuff that he could do, similar to what Beefcake does, so I assume it's similar to what Godzilla does. And I don't liken those guys to above dragon. They're more or less, you know, like high dragons. And so that's why I say that Godzilla could be possibly above dragon because of his the fire powers that he has and whatnot. But also, if he had control of all the other monsters in the movie, like at the end, would the threat level go past dragon into god with all of them together like the Three Crows did? Yeah, I assume so. So I'm not sure how many monsters are in the movie. I know there's a bunch, more than what we see in the trailer. So if they all group together, I guess they would be God, because they would definitely be threatening humanity at that point, especially if they all work together. Even if all of the heroes work together to take him down, it would still be a lot of trouble for them, you know, aside if Saitama wasn't there or not. So yeah, I do think it's fair to say that all of them together would be disaster level gods, similar to the principle of the Three Crows. Also, do you think a king could tame a powerful beast like Godzilla or a full-strength Rover? Yes, I do think he could tame Rover. Not sure about Godzilla, but I assume Rover would view King the same way that the other executives do. You know, just this overwhelming force who literally scares them to the point of almost crapping their pants. So I assume Rover would more or less become submissive to King. I don't think he would really attack him or whatnot. And I think the context clues and the evidence that we have supports that, just in my opinion at least. Paxson D asks, hey, Sean, a long time, my friend. Hope you've been well. I've been so busy these last few months. Glad to see the channel is doing awesome. Still watching all the time? Hope you've been enjoying Season 2. Things have been a little rushed, and sometimes animation has been a little sloppy, but for the most part, I'm enjoying it. Anyway, I'll leave you to it, man. I'll try to see you in the next week, my friend. Hey, thanks for sticking around, Pax, and I know you're one of the longest patrons here, and I appreciate that so much, my friend. I'm glad that you've been busy. I hope it's the good kind of busy. In my opinion, staying busy and not idle is the key to succeeding. Also, I've been enjoying Season 2 as well. There have been some rough patches and rushed stuff as well, but man, it's really coming together now. Like, episode 11 was incredible. One of the best moments I've had with anime, period. I hope that episode 12 can keep up that momentum, but aside from that, I've enjoyed it for the most part. But hey, thanks for sticking around, man. Phoenix Man asks, greetings, Sean. It's good to see you're finally free of the clutches of all those strikes. Hopefully you can get things sorted now. Now then, my question today is, how powerful do you think All For One would become after eating Monster Cell? How do you think something like One Punch Man's Monsterification would interact with all of those quirks that All For One has? Take care, Shouted. So I think he would more or less kind of transform into that thing that we saw him become at the end of his fight with All Might. The combination, the ultimate combination is what he calls of all of the quirks that he could use in tandem to become like that giant arm. I think he would start looking something freaky like that, and I assume that the Monsterification would allow him to use all of his quirks simultaneously the way he was doing at all times, rather than having to go into that transformed state, which would make him insane. Like, just imagine if every punch that he could do was like the punch that he did to All Might at the end of their fight. I assume that he would just be wrecking the place, and he would be more so as strong as like a prime All Might, if not stronger than him. I mean, he was close to it in his own prime, but I assume if we're looking at like the ultimate combination engulfing his whole body, he would be insane. He would be able to fly easily. I mean, he would be like Beefcake, you know, like a mini Beefcake, just walking around the world of My Hero Academia, which would essentially make him God. No one would really be able to stand up to that, except for a Prime All Might, or if they were somehow able to sneak Eri behind him and like reduce him to a monkey form, like who says it? I think Overhaul says it or something like that. But I mean, there wouldn't be a lot of ways to deal with something like that. Raul M asked, yo, what a big Z. I forgot to ask a question last week because I went to the UFC event to watch a Korean zombie do work. Hey, that's awesome, man. I hope you had a good time. The UFC events are always fun when you get to go to them in person. I'm also glad that Korean Zombie won. I love that guy, and I'm glad to see that he's getting back on track. Anyway, my question this week is, how do you think Head Kenta Yamamoto from Bleach would do against the Monster Association? Personally, I don't think he would even need to go Shikai. Whoa, that's a bold statement there, my friend. So I do think he would need to use the Shikai. While his his martial arts abilities and hand-to-hand combat is very impressive. We saw him, go against that dude that Eisen created, just specifically to take him down, the bucktooth guy. I forget his name right now, but it's definitely impressive. But it's hard to quantify his speed in relation to like the Monster Association executive. So I do think that he would definitely need to use his Shikai. But also we have to remember that like a pre-woke Garo, who is not as strong as the Monster Association executives, was able to tank Orochi's heat beams. And that was a restricted Orochi. He was holding back, not trying to kill Garo, but still, it impressed Gero to the fact that he was just tanking them so easily. So I assume that they're at least as hot as his Shikai, leading me to believe that he would have to go Bankai if he was going to take down these Monster Association executives. So, of course, his Bankai is when he engulfs himself in the flames and he becomes allegedly as hot as the sun. Does that mean that he's hotter than Orochi's full power heat beams? I don't know. I'm not going to try to quantify it. But he also has that resurrection ability where he can resurrect all those burnt skeletons and whatnot, and that's pretty cool. I'm not sure who would win there, but I do think that he would definitely need to go Bankai if he had even a remote chance of taking down the executives from the Monster Association. My second question is, how has your week been? Do anything interesting? So most of my time, I'm just working and whatnot, working on the channel, trying to get things done, making deals and whatnot. A lot of stuff goes on behind the scenes here and stuff, but I do try to stay as social as possible. I at least devote like 2 days out of my week to make sure that I go out and get some recreation done, just so I don't drive myself crazy and just everything is focused on manga and YouTube channel and work and whatnot. But thanks for asking, man. I hope you're doing the same, my friend. Steven asks, Stoima, dude. So how would a duel between the Metal Bat and the 3 Disciples play out? So I think he would more or less probably 1 or 2 shot all of them. They probably are more skilled than Metal Bat. Metal Bat has, shown to not be the most skilled guy. He does have crazy reflexes, and he does have his own skill set with the Metal Bat, but, it's implied that Metal Bat wasn't trained, and he's kind of just doing his own thing. So, yeah, they would probably get a few slashes or hits on him and whatnot, but eventually, once he starts getting, his fighting spirit starts kicking in and starts smashing the ground and whatnot, it would only eventually take like 1 or 2 hits for him to take them all out. They're not really that powerful, especially considering what we've seen them do before. Metal Bat, yeah, he would be a nightmare for them, but I don't think it would be like a complete blowout immediately. It would take some time, because I do think they could definitely dodge Metal Bat's initial strikes. What are you expecting when Genos finally makes his entry in the Monster Association? So I'm hoping that Genos gets an awesome moment. Unfortunately, he will likely just, wind up being rubble the way that he is in the webcomic. But in the manga, I hope that he takes down someone, because he does have that 10-second full power mode, which I assume is either him going Super Saiyan or him shooting like some kind of crazy Millennium Emperor Nova type beam. So I hope that he gets an awesome moment where he at least takes down one of the executives or something like that, and we get to see him do something spectacular. But other than that, I think he is just eventually going to be defeated and then just useless for the end portion of the arc, more or less. What are your thoughts on Tarantino directing a Star Trek movie? I think it's super interesting. I'm not a really big fan of Star Trek. I wish he was directing a Star Wars movie, but I know that'll never probably happen considering the tight grasp that Disney has on Star Wars, and it would alienate a lot of their audience if Tarantino were to direct it. But I'm also concerned because I remember hearing that Tarantino was only going to make 10 movies, and I assume that the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is his 9th movie. So would this mean that Star Trek is his 10th and final movie? Maybe it's like a dream of Tarantino to always have been able to direct Star Trek. Maybe he's a huge fan of Star Trek. But I do think he's going to make it great. He'll probably make the greatest Star Trek movie ever. I'll definitely watch it. I'll watch anything Tarantino makes. Congratulations on being strike-free. Take it easy, man. Hey, thanks, Steven. Teague A H asks, I hope I'm saying your name right, let me know. Hey, Shona, I'm fairly new to this, but I've been watching your videos for some time now, and I'd like to say I'm happy to be contributing to this channel. And I want to thank you for your endless work that you put into your videos. Love you, man. Hey, thanks, Teague. I really appreciate that. My first question is, in the manga, do you think of all the executives will get their own chapter and battle? I would like to see more from them and how exactly they stack up against the Hero Association. I'm unsure about that. So some of them for sure are going to get their own chapter. Like I think the next chapter, 111, is just going to be dedicated to Atomic Samurai versus Black Ass and fleshing out that character, or at least I really hope it is. But as for the other ones, I think it's more or less going to play out the way that it did in the webcomic. So they're going to get more time for sure, but I don't think they're going to get their own chapter. More specifically, I'm thinking like Gums and Fear Ugly, they're not going to get their own dedicated chapter. I could, of course, be wrong, and I hope I am. I hope they all get their own specific chapter, and they're all fleshed out way more than they were in the webcomic. I mean, friggin' Phoenix Man got a whole little mini arc to himself, so I hope they do get it, but I do think we're just going to get more or less like increments of Fear Ugly and Gums, and maybe even Homeless Emperor, the way that it is in the webcomic. I feel like maybe Murata is trying to shy away from extending this more than it really needs to be. It seems like after the whole Phoenix Man thing wrapped up, he wanted to maybe shy away from that, considering it took like 2 months to get that done. Of course, I could be wrong, but this is just how I see things going. My second question is, if you had to pick up if or when a hero is able to pass up Sweet Mass to become an S-Class hero, whom would you think it would be? So this is a good question. Nobody really sticks out right now as to being S-Class level, but in the future, it could possibly be E-Iron, especially if he gets like a robotic arm. That would definitely buff him up to possibly become low-level S-Class maybe, because we saw him do some impressive stuff in the solo chapter that he got. I think it was like 104 or something. So he's definitely has the potential. The other character I see is Fubuki. Fubuki legitimately takes down a dragon. So, you know, of course she is specialized. She just can't take down any dragon, but I think she should be an S-Class hero just because of her ability to nullify powerful Espers and whatnot. So I think those are the two that could potentially surpass him. Other than the, you know, the support team heroes who maybe are going to surpass him in the future just because they're going to get some crazy buff that we don't know about right now. And my final question is, do you think at some point we will get to see, whether in the webcomic, manga, or anime, every S-Class hero's fighting style expanded upon like Flashy Flash got in his fight against Saitama? I would love to see more from the likes of Zombie Man, Tank Top Master, Drive Knight, Pig God, Watchdog Man. So I don't really think we're going to get more on Zombie Man or Tank Top Master. If anything, Zombie Man is going to get like a buff from Dr. Genus, or at least I hope he does. But I do think we're going to get an expansion on Drive Knight, and we have to, and Watchdog Man. Those are the two prime candidates. Pig God, I'm really unsure about. I don't know if we're really going to go any more into him than we already have. I mean, I hope we at least get an explanation of how he works. But other than that, I don't think we're going to get a long, expanded explanation in chapters the way that Flashy Flash does. I think Flash is kind of an exception to this. But if anyone else is going to come close to that, it's definitely going to be Watchdog Man and Drive Knight. But as for the other heroes, you know, aside from Blast and stuff, I don't think we're going to go too much into them the way that Flashy Flash has been. Wolfpup asks, my first question is, how strong would Neo from the Matrix be if he jumped in the One Punch Man universe? What class would you put him at, and do you think he'd take out an executive member? So if you're talking about Neo, like in the Matrix, like the program and all of the abilities that he gets from it, he would be insane. Definitely S-Class, closer to Tatsumaki in power than anything, just based off of what he was able to do against Agent Smith at the end of the third movie. But if you're talking about Neo, like in reality, I'm not really sure what he can do. Like, I saw him blow up all of those Sentinels and whatnot, and that's pretty crazy. But does that mean that his power goes beyond machines and that he could just do it to anything? And if so, then he is closer to Tatsumaki in reality as well. So based off of that, I assume that he could definitely take down an executive member if Tatsumaki can. Any horror games that scared you? Mine would be Fear 2 Project Origin, which came out in 2009. The Fear series really fun and had good jump scare, I'm not gonna lie. Funny enough, that game did scare me. It came out when I was young and it freaked me out because it has like the ring type girl, and that stuff is always good for a scare, especially at that time when everything was trying to be the ring. So yeah, the way that the game portrays her, like she's there 1 second and she's 1-9, you turn around, she's there, it freaked me out. Then it's funny that you're bringing that up. Funny movie scene, and I see that you linked the scary movie scene. That is hilarious. Funny movie scenes that I love is just like from the Anchorman movies. That's what comes to mind immediately. I mean, there's other comedy movies that I like, but just based off the top of my head, like the Anchorman when what's Ant-Man? What's his name? I forget the actor's name. He puts on the Odeon perfume, and then everyone around him is like being grossed out by it, and all of the little explanations of what it smells like when they're throwing it out there. Sounds hilarious. I can't talk about it in this video because I'll get demonetized, but you know what I'm talking about. Check out Panther by Odeon on YouTube if you're curious what scene I'm talking about. Do you know the Japanese urban legend Slit Mouth Woman? According to the legend, she covers her mouth with a cloth mask. The woman will ask a potential victim, "Am I pretty?" If they answer yes, she will remove her mask and ask them again. If the potential victim answers yes or screams, she will slash the victim from ear to ear so the victim resembles her. If they answer no, she will walk away only to follow her victim home and brutally murder them that night. What would her disaster level be in the One Punch Man universe? Oh, and she could teleport as well. She reminds me of Royal Ripper. So you're talking about the character from Mob Psycho. Yeah, she does look like Royal Ripper. She's kind of like Royal Ripper and Face Ripper combined, you know, because of her arm kind of looks like that too. But based off of what she is like in Mob Psycho, definitely a demon. Like, the crazy speed and destructive abilities that she have is totally demon level. I guess maybe mid, low. It really remains to be seen because we'd have to see her compete against other S-Class heroes and whatnot. But Mob is definitely on the S-Class, and he just took her out with one shot. So I guess, you know, maybe low, mid demon or whatnot, but definitely comparable for sure, even if she came to the world of One Punch Man. If you don't mind me asking, favorite PS4 game? So this is going to trigger a lot of people. My favorite PS4 game as of right now is Fallout 4. I know a lot of people despise that game and think it's crappy. I love it. I love Fallout. I like 3. I like 4. I didn't really get to play the new one, 76, all that much. So I'm not going to jump on the hate bandwagon for that game because I didn't really get to experience that much. But I haven't really played too many PS4 games to really give like a solid answer. But just my personal favorite. I like Fallout 4. Overwatch is awesome too. But I'm only recently getting more into gaming, so I'll be able to give you a better better answer in the future. If you could bring one S-Class hero with you to the casino, who would you bring and why? Definitely King. I mean, come on, guys. Meta luck. Yeah, we would never lose, and everyone would just keep giving him comp stuff, comp rooms, comp drinks, and everything. And if I'm there with him, I assume I'm going to be part of it. So definitely King. We would never lose because, you know, come on, it's King. King versus Super S. Who you got 1v1? Or would her whip refuse to hit King just like Kisami's sword? Samihana refused to slice Killer Bee's legs. So I think Super S wouldn't even try to attack King. She is a demon, but seems to be a lower demon. She almost like submitted to a mind mask just based off of what she knew about him because she did have some kind of lingering feelings for him. So if we're taking that to the ultimate level with King and his crazy meta luck, charisma, overbearing aura that he puts out, I think it's going to just push her over the edge. She's not even going to attack him. She's probably just going to submit to him and just be like, can I be your servant? Can I be your slave and whatnot? And then, of course, he's going to refuse, and then likely she would just run away out of embarrassment and disgust. But I don't even think she would get to the point of trying to attack him, even throwing her whip at him. So that's pretty much it for the video today, guys. Once again, I want to thank all 67 of my incredible, amazing, attractive patrons. Guys, thank you so much. It really does mean a lot to me, and I hope that these Q&A videos are good enough to give back for everything that you have given me. And if you would like to be in next week's Q&A video, just simply check out my Patreon. Sign up for the $5 tier. We'll give you access to it. And other than that, if you liked the video, please give it a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day, everyone. I'll see you in the next one.